Okay, can I please have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion moved by Mr. Suchaki,
Se-
second by Mrs. Etter. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Suchaki,
Aye.
Mrs. Etter,
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mrs. Schuker.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Moving to the comments from the public, we have no public, so we will move on to Mr. Muccio.
Thank you, President Schuker. A few recommendations tonight. First recommendation, 5A, approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of June 13th, 2019 special meeting and June 26th, 2019 regular meeting as found in attachment T1. 6A, motion to accept the bank reconciliation, financial reports, and payments for board review as of June 30th, 2019, as prepared and certified by the treasurer as accurate, as found in attachment T2. 6B, motion to approve new vendors to the school district per W-9s attached, as found in attachment T3. 6C, accept donations. Motion to accept the attached list of donations received through July 31st, 2019, as found in attachment T4. 6D, approve advances. Motion to approve fund-to-fund advances. Advances out temporarily reallocate cash from and to another fund with an expectation of repayment. 2,300 from Fund 590, Title 2A, to Fund 001, the general fund.
Okay, at this time, I will take a motion to approve the treasurer's business consent agenda motions.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dobbins.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Suchaki. Discussion.
Before jumping to the financials, for the minutes, we're gonna have to do one correction for the June 26th, 2019 regular meeting. Dr. Clares, do you wanna speak on the correction that we have on that one?
The contract for Pep Prentice was approximately $168,000. The contract was correct, the amount of the requisition was correct, but the board resolution said $160,000, so that would be the correction.
Yep.
Do we need to approve that additional amount, or are we good
Yeah.
for the difference?
Yeah, did we vote on the wrong amount?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
No, you voted on the requisition, you voted on the contract, which both had the correct amounts in it,
Okay.
and then the motion.
The verbiage in the
The
motion.
verbiage in the
Oh,
motion
okay,
did
so
not have the correct
I just wanna make
numbers,
sure
so
that we
it's-
need to take
it's
some.
more of a numbers correction than a revote, I
Gotcha.
believe.
Okay.
Would be appropriate, because you were presented with the appropriate numbers, and that was, the appropriate number was on the requisition, but when they typed the resolution out, the
Just had the wrong amount in the resolution itself.
8
Okay.
must become a 0 instead, so. It's a correction of the motion itself, so.
Okay.
So then I'll go back and correct those for the next meeting.
Well, it's just, I don't mean to get into the weeds, but I mean, if the board's official action was to approve some dollar amount, was less than the requisition, then aren't we committed to some amount less than the requisition?
No, the requisition was correct.
Oh, okay, but I
The
mean,
reso- the-
but the motion that the board acted on and considered was a lower sum than the requisition, no?
Correct.
Yeah, so didn't the board's action officially approve some amount less than what was in the rec? So legally, couldn't we be limited to paying only what we'd approved?
But don't we approve we approve the requisition?
We could correct the minutes, or we could go, we've already approved up
Okay.
to 160.
Okay.
And then once we got to 160, if we needed to create a second requisition, which is a little bit more cumbersome, for the $8,000 difference, we could also do that as a way of correcting it.
Okay.
I believe if we correct the motion, that, because the contract number that you approved was correct, the
Mhm.
requisition itself was correct, the verbiage in the resolution was incorrect, was a typo.
Okay, all right. Whatever's easiest, I just want to make sure that we
So-
weren't having a small issue here. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's really not the minutes that are wrong. I mean, the agenda was wrong.
Yeah, correct.
So I'd be hesitant to change the minutes. It was the agenda that was wrong. See where I'm coming from?
Okay.
Does that make some sense?
Well, the
Yeah.
minutes of the agenda both being the same.
Right, but they were
let's do this. Let's approve the minutes as presented, and then we'll create a second requisition for the $8,000.
Yeah, I think I'd feel more-
Or if we wanted to pass a resolution tonight, approving.
We're not gonna get billed between now and the next meeting, so
Yeah.
Okay,
Dr. Clerk's making note that we
Yeah,
need
I-
to just do a second requisition to PSI or
Yeah.
the
all right.
PEP
I
Prentice.
feel more comfortable that way. I'd rather not change the minutes.
Resolution to cover the additional amount because the rec's
Correct.
already correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not gonna change the minutes. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I feel better that way.
Okay,
I know it's a minor
no,
point.
that works.
All right, so we move on to our next item on tonight's agenda, 6A, reviewing the bank reconciliation, financial reports, and payments for board review. One item is new, it's the payments for board review. What that is it's gonna essentially be a check register, so I'll include that every month for the board. It's all the checks that were written, it has a description, the amount, and the check number along with it too. So we'll see that there. There's quite a bit of attachments that we have included for the financial reports. So I included it as the last one in the listing of everything that we have. So just so everybody knows, that's why we see that now. So again, it's a check listing that has the amounts, description for the entire month, and that'll be there for every month. If we start looking at our financials, I have these printed out for everybody to look at. Our first sheet to look at would be T2D, which would be our lead sheet that we have. This lead sheet is gonna be for our general fund that we have. If we look in the top left-hand corner, column B, row number 1, that was our beginning balance for the year in our general fund, $12,345,668. And we ended fiscal 19, column N, row 31, with $13,870,632. So it's about a $1.5 million surplus that we ended fiscal 19 with. So our carryover balance going from fiscal 19 to fiscal 20 in the general fund is $13,870,632. At the beginning of the year, and when the October forecast came, we were thinking there was a potential for deficit spending from the onset. Certain circumstances have changed since then. Among them would be that all of our expenses came in under budget for what we have, which is very good. As far as the revenue goes, we saw some increases in all their operating revenue. Among them would be the SF-14 core placed money that we received, as well as interest on income. Also, we had an additional amount for property taxes that came in May 2019. We'll kind of talk about that more too, but if we look at column L, row 2, the amount that we booked was $458,000. That was about
I'm sorry,
300.
give me that column
Yep,
again?
it's column L, row 2, and that's in May 2019. The amount is $458,000 that we booked.
Mhm.
That's about $300,000 higher than we were planning for. That's actually an advance for fiscal 20's property taxes, but the county gives it to us ahead of time that we book in fiscal 19. And from looking at prior years, that amount came in at about $150,000. So that was the amount that we had plugged in for our estimate, but we actually got advanced more. So that $300,000 also goes to increase our fund balance for what we had. So those are the broad areas that kind of led us to having a surplus in fiscal 19. Again, our philosophy, at least the philosophy I'm, trying to portray to everybody, is tackle the needs first and then reasonably prioritize the wants that we have with the district. So even though we have a surplus, we're still gonna hear, why didn't we buy this? Why didn't we buy that? So there's always wants on the list that we have, but we reasonably prioritize those and try to address as many, reasonably that we can. So, but it was a very favorable year how it ended up for us, leading us into fiscal 20. I'll point out, on the different spreadsheets that we have, the big ticket items as we go through. But just kind of looking at this lead sheet, if we look at the far right columns, column R, column Q, column P, and then column N, which would be our ending balances. So column R would be the October 2018 5-year forecast that we have. May is column Q, the 2019 5-year forecast. The numbers, some stayed relatively, consistent, some changed between the October forecast to May forecast. The difference between the May forecast and fiscal year end 2019's budget, column P is our ending budget for the year. That was in June. We can see that there was a small increase in revenue, about $100,000 that we had between the May 5-year forecast to the column P fiscal year end 2019 budget. Again, the orange number represents the amount that we certified as revenue at the end of June, the $16,617,330. And the actual amount that came in is about $100,000 more than that. So if we look at column N, and we're looking at row 13, that amount is $16,734,554. So it's about $100,000 more than what we thought the amount would be in June, when we were estimating that amount as our end of year budget. So again, we knew that we were trending upwards, but that's a conservative estimate that we had for the amount as of June for column P. But again, we'll talk about revenues as we go through this more. If we look at our expenses, those amounts stayed consistent from the October 5-year forecast to the May 2019 5-year forecast, and then to our fiscal year end 2019 budget. The only difference really is the $2,300 advance that we knew we had to do for the 2 teachers, excuse me, that went on their trips. Again, that was a timing issue with ODE that we had to claim the funds ahead of time from the general fund, which we'll pay back, which we see on tonight's board agenda for what we have. So again, we have a favorable year in our general fund. We're probably at our highest cash point, I want to say at $13.8 million in the general fund for quite a period of time. At least, looking back at the 5-year forecast through all those years, it's almost doubled up from 2016 had $7.2 million, 2017 had $9.5 million, 2018 had $12.1 million. That's unreserved fund balance. If we're looking at cash balances, 2016 would be 7.6, 2017 would be 9.7, and 2018 would be 12.3. So if we're looking at 2016, we're almost doubling up from where we were at that period of time. So trending very favorably. Any questions before I move on to the next spreadsheet that we have? Okay. If we flip over to the next page, this is going to be our tax revenue. We can see that the items in blue and how they panned out during the year, which would be our property taxes for what we have. Rows 1 and 2 are going to stay consistent moving forward, but rows 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is the total, so 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are settlements. We're not going to have those going forward in fiscal 20. Now, we may, but we're not planning, as of right now, to have any settlements going forward. So those amounts that we see that make up those lines will not be there in future fiscal years. We also want to point out that the amount that we received on row 2, which is delinquent property taxes, we booked $171,000. That's going to change from year to year as the amount of delinquent property taxes that we collect. So in some years it could be higher, in some years it could be lower. Also, the $8.7 million that we collected in real property taxes for both Class 1 and Class 2, a lot of that is predicated on the collection percentage in which we collect the taxes from Cuyahoga County for the communities that we have here. We're about 95–96% collection rate. So if it stays in that, realm, we'll collect, similar amounts. But it's going to change as the valuations go up and how it affects everything. But that's where we're at right now. So the amounts for the blue, the property taxes for what we have, we know we're not going to see the settlements going forward. Delinquent taxes could go up or down. And we know Class 1 and 2, if it stays consistent to where we are right now, we're going to be in that same ballpark. For the pink, the tangible personal property tax, row 8, that's our public utility personal property. It's going to be our railroads and utilities. That amount has gone up considerably for the past 6, 7 years that we've had. We booked almost $2.5 million, and that looks to be the same amount going forward in fiscal 20, if not more, for that account. For the green, the property tax allocation, the one thing I want to point out is row 12, which is our phase out of TPP. we collected $2.3 million in fiscal 19. We know that amount is gonna go down by about 200,000 every year until it's phased out. So next year, we're gonna see 2.1 in fiscal 20, in fiscal 21, we're gonna see $1.9 million. So it's gradually gonna keep going down. So that's the line that we have to worry about in our budget, which eventually is gonna go to zero. Which, you know, we're planning for accordingly, into the future, but we know, you know, that at this point, it's phasing out at about $200,000 per year. So that's our big, you know, takeaway from this sheet is that line right there, which is phasing out about $200,000 every year. Any questions before we move on to the next sheet? Okay. Our next sheet is our state aid that we have. It's restricted and unrestricted state aid. And we can see the estimates for unrestricted aid, which is gonna be row 19 in the orange, all the way on the right-hand side. The estimate that we had was $653,000. Our actuals came in at $659,000. So we came in about 1 percentage point above the estimated amount. So we were pretty much on target with what we thought we were gonna get the whole year in unrestricted aid. This amount, you know, is gonna stay, you know, consistent from the state. We're not gonna see a huge gain that we're not necessarily anticipating from the two-year governor's biennial budget. I don't know, Mr. Evans, if you wanna speak on the governor's budget at all, or save that for another time.
Well, you know, we'll roll on. There's not, two things that pertain to what Matt said, and I think I sent this to you in your update. It was actually in the budget to reduce the run out from 5/8 to a quarter mil. The governor line item vetoed that. Also, the Alliance has also still gone back and said, with a proposal it's in a separate bill right now, that in 16-17, we got $588 per student through the state funding formula. The recommendation is that no school get less than what the non-public schools receive, which is just over $1,200. So that would almost double our per pupil money, just without formula or anything involved in that. So that is gonna be back before the legislation, and also cut Patterson's back in committee and in the form of another bill, so we don't know what that'll do. But those are big items, the TPP and then just the per pupil funding, so.
Looking at restricted grants and aid, rows 20, 21, and 22. The big ticket item that we have would be row 22, catastrophic cost reimbursement, and we received $138,000 in the month of June. That's, you know, a lot of hard work with Kathy Martin, our assistant treasurer, and George Burek. Did a great job working on that this year. We think that amount's gonna be consistent going year to year. So the amounts that we see here for restricted and unrestricted should relatively stay the same. going
So what does that
What is that?
mean?
Yeah, our definitions are at the bottom that we have here.
Catastrophic.
Okay.
And catastrophic aid reimbursement's the very last definition that we have. Schools may submit reimbursement requests for costs exceeding the threshold to educate K through 12 students with disabilities.
Oh, okay.
So they're looking at that threshold amount that comes from the state, and then they're working on our reimbursement amount for costs that exceed that threshold set by OBE.
And just to know, there's not a formula necessarily involved. Now, we submit a lot of costs to them, and then I think the approach on the state level is when there's money left in the kind of special needs pot, then they divvy that out, and that's where we pick up additional catastrophic cost money on some of those items. But we have to go through, Kathy and George spent several days outlining all those costs to the state, so. I think we probably get a little bit more than maybe some other districts because of the detail that goes in this, what we're doing. Percentage-wise, not maybe not overall dollar-wise, but we have the ability to get into some pretty good detail the last couple of years. Kathy's gone to some specialized training on the catastrophic costs, and it's really been good for us. It's paid benefits for us.
Well, thanks to those individuals and
Yes.
anyone else involved in trying to shake the trees. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. If we flip our page over to our next spreadsheet, this is gonna be all their operating revenue and all their financing sources. We can see at the very top right-hand side, our estimate was $1,280,416. Our actuals came in at $1,392,443. So about $100,000 more than what we thought we received. You know, as we started going down our estimates for revenue to what our actuals were, row 3, which would be fiscal 20 tuition that we received, we had planned about 15,000. We received 84,000. So we had a lot of parents paying that first quarter amount on time. So that's, you know, very good. So we're just receiving, you know, upfront more than what we thought. So that, you know, plays a part in what we,
These are for the upcoming school year, they're already paying
yes,
the tuition?
yes, the 19-20
Mhm.
school year, what we have. If we keep going down, 6, 7, and 8 are gonna be our revenues from interest on investments for what we have. We can see 80,000 was budgeted for Red Tree investments, and we received 95,000. That's on row 6. Row 7 in the blue would be our investments in Star. Our estimate was 250,000. We brought in 255,000. And green would be the very minor Huntington hybrid checking investment, and we receive a small amount for our funds that we hold in our operating account, our day-to-day account, and we brought in $2,245. So we brought in over $350,000 worth of interest on investments for fiscal 19. And if we look at the bottom, we can see for rows 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's gonna be our monthly cash that we hold in our investment accounts. The blue Star, we hold about 70% of our portfolio cash in Star, Ohio. We hold about 20% in Red Tree, and the remaining portion is gonna be in Huntington hybrid, so it's less than 10%. So we wanna hold as much cash as we can in our, you know, interest-bearing accounts, which is what we do. So over 90% of the district's total cash is always held in investments. You know, for our daily cash operations, we'd like to hold about $1.5 million. So that accounts for 2 payrolls a month, as well as all the checks that we're cutting for daily operations. Our slow points for cash are gonna be the months of, actually the 4th quarter of the calendar year, which is gonna be October, November, and December. And that's due to us not receiving our monies from tax advances that we have. So if we flip back to the very first page, our lead sheet, and we look at row 2, we can see that we don't receive tax advances in September, October, November, December, and then we start receiving them in January. So that's our bulk, you know, slow period for what we're gonna see. So we may have to pull more cash out of our bank account Star to help facilitate with our daily cash operations that we have in the district during that time.
Is there 3 payrolls this month too?
We have 3 payrolls in January and, yes, August. Yep. So we did very well. We can also look at our monthly average yield, so lines 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we can see where we started in the month of July, 2.04 for Red Tree, 2.06 for Star, and we can see each month how those percentages, the average yield differ.
Mhm.
And for Star, for example, you know, went from 2.06 to 2.11, 2.15, 2.28, 2.34, 2.41, 2.54, 2.58, stayed at 2.58 for 3 months, went to 2.54, and then 2.51. We do know that quarter of a point was reduced last week Wednesday, I want to say. So that will affect our, you know, interest that we receive on our investments going forward. So we just have to, you know, be cognizant of the fact that we're not going to see as much in this year if rates continue to decline for us.
Since Red Tree does consistently
Yes.
earn more,
Yep.
are you considering bringing the amounts that you invest in the two a little more in line, since you have a much more in Star right now?
Right, this gives us a good snapshot of a year's worth of the rates. And yes, we can see that Star and Red Tree are close, but Red Tree's been consistently for the last 7 months outperforming Star. You know, we have some principles that we go by with our investments, which is outlined in our 5-year forecast. Liquidity, security, also maximizing our return on investment. You know, one thing that the district could do is we could lock in certificates of deposit, so we can get a higher, you know, percentage by locking those funds in longer. Now, it keeps those funds locked and we can't touch them and, you know, get them out. So we just have to plan accordingly. A lot's gonna have to do with, you know, how the rates continue to decline, and maybe that's a good option to look at. We did sit and meet with Ryan, a couple times during this year, from Red Tree. He came out and presented for the board as well. So I know we did meet, and he kinda said that, you know, it's looking like the Fed's gonna drop the rates down. So, if they continue to decline more, cause Red Tree's gonna plan for that accordingly too, we'll take action and we'll make sure we're investing our funds in Red Tree, even more than the 4 million that we have here going forward. So we may increase that to 5, 6, 7, just to make sure we're maximizing our funds. But we don't wanna lock everything away,
No.
you know, in CDs that we can't touch, so it's
Right.
balancing our portfolio out.
Mr. Muccio?
Yep.
Is there a limitation that either the state imposes or the board imposed on itself relative to dealing with Red Tree? I think, my memory says that when we signed Red Tree, that we, I think, committed to 25% of our cash reserves. And I'm just saying that as a point of reference, should you want to expand that. But I agree with everything you said. It seems like sound advice.
Absolutely. You know, as far as our investment, philosophy, yes, we will, you know, follow ORC to the T. So if we cannot invest more than a certain percentage of our funds in certain, investments that are out there, yes, we will absolutely comply with that too. So that factors in with, you know, as far as we go with Red Tree as well. So we're definitely,
Yes.
keeping that in
So
mind.
you think that was something that we did locked in legislatively, so to speak, 25% and 75?
You know, I had just started at the board, with the board, and my memory is that the motion was, I thought it was $4 million, but I don't know if it was expressed as a percentage of funds, or if it was just understood and agreed that it was 25% of our cash balance. I'm not sure, but I I remember someone talking about 25% and/or perhaps it being in a resolution, be like October, November of 16, I think.
Yeah, well,
Just,
I don't remember one way or the other. It's very good. I'm impressed.
well,
I'll take a look at that and get back to the board for the next
Yeah.
board meeting.
Okay.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because obviously if we decided, we said that's what we're gonna limit it to, then we either need to change
We're gonna
that.
look at our policy too.
That's right.
Make
That's
sure
right.
that-
And I don't know if this is of any concern or just to make note, but it looks like that Red Tree is the only one that's actually charging us a monthly fee.
Yes.
Maybe that was
I
one of the
mean-
reasons why we did it that way.
Well,
Maybe,
and I think what originally had happened when, you know, they presented, we had 3 different companies present to the finance committee. This was new to us, this was new to Keith, it was, you know, so we were playing it very safe, but I think though, you know, even back then, those discussions were things can change, and once, you know, we have consistency with a treasurer that knows what he's doing, now we can maybe look at it and make some other financial decisions,
Mhm.
you know, based on, and I like that, Matt, like, I like that there, you know, we have a whole year to like look at and,
this
you
is,
know.
this is wonderful.
Yeah, it
To
really
look
is
at
very
this
good.
and you see this month by month,
right.
and wonderful the fact that, you know, we're making money every month.
Maybe something for the finance committee, get elbow deep in and maybe come back to the board with a recommendation, and that'll give Matt some time to make sure that policy-wise we're in line too.
Mhm.
I mean, I wonder if it would be, if we just went to Red Tree and said, hey, why are you charging us monthly fees when we have other investments and other portfolios that
But
are
that's
not?
what they, that's what they
That's
do,
their
Red
business.
Tree is a company that does that, that's,
That was part of their sales pitch.
yeah,
Yeah,
Mm.
that's what they do.
yes, because they're making more for their customer, it's a business.
I guess to Ms. Sugar's point, I
Okay.
very much appreciate the detail in this one-year horizon and look back. Maybe it might be helpful for the board to know at some point if one were to net out the fees from the return on the Red Tree money, how would that compare to Star Ohio? And if it's a decimal point, you know, if it's a basis point, no big deal, but if it's more than that, we should at least be cognizant of what the effect is.
Well, the fees are down on the bottom, right?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
seeing them right here, and the percentage change.
So well, again, someone has to do the math, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
if it's
Right, one is
If
percentages
it's
and one is
inconsequential,
dollars.
I'm fine with it.
Right, and roughly just looking at this, row 14 is gonna be the fees that Red Tree charges us, which is, a certain percentage on, the income that we bring in, but it's roughly about $340, $350 a month.
Okay.
And the investment, total amount is gonna be row 10, so, each month we can see the amounts that are brought in. 95,000 is the total, and 4,000 rounding is the fees, so.
It's pretty small.
It's about
5%. So,
Okay.
Is the monthly fee based on, you said it's based on the
So,
amount, so
yes.
it would go up
yes, the more we
if we,
invest with
Right.
Rich.
right, but
will.
we still would hopefully have a higher, outcome.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah,
you know,
It's a gamble, I mean,
they're-
the
it's-
fees
they're a
can make it
little
flip the other way.
Mhm.
right, there are no fees with Star, you know, it is what you get with Star. With Red Tree, we have to, you know, also, you
Yeah.
know, gauge the, you know, the increase that we would give, if we give Red Tree another $1 million, you know,
We're gonna
our
pay more
fees are gonna
fees.
go up with that as
Yeah.
well, so it kinda gets
It's-
you close to netting out.
Yeah, so we kinda need not so much the average yield, but average yield after fees is the numbers we need to look at if we wanna make a change.
And again, there's a,
And I may have spoken too early because we don't have that number.
And for me, it's looking at the separation between row 6 and row 7, which is gonna be the yield. And it's been fairly close for half the year, and then
Right.
it started kind of breaking apart around,
Mhm.
you know, February, March.
Mhm.
So, you know, once we look at everything from our policy and back when we went with Red Tree, that'll give us more clarity on, you know, going
Okay.
forward. And more funds there.
And
But-
basically, is it worth $4,100 in
Right.
fees? Or if we're going, but what's what's the difference in the higher yield and,
Right.
right now they look really close, but there is a difference.
Right. And, you know, this is a good discussion to have, and we look back at the past 5 years, and we made significantly more in fiscal 19 than we did, you know, in total for the past number of years, I wanna say, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
your efforts in managing the money soundly and to get the best return.
Yep.
There's no work, it was everybody's work before I got here, you know, President Schukert and, you know, everybody that was on the finance committee, you know, going with Red Tree and then, you know, going with Star. I came from a district that kind of had the reverse, you know, situation going on where they didn't have money to invest. So here with money to invest, you know, it's definitely a good situation,
Mhm.
so, yeah, so.
You like that situation better?
It's,
Yes.
it's more favorable. And then, you know, if we flip the page and go into our next one, this is gonna be page 2. There's not really much here, so I'll skip that. We'll go to personnel services, our green spreadsheet for salaries, T2H. Just wanted to point out 2 things on this one. If we look at the very, very bottom right-hand corner, we can see that our budget was $8,126,372, and our actuals came in at $8,050,701. So we hit 99% of what our budget was, so it's extremely close.
Yeah,
One line,
That's very good.
yep, one line where we think that we may have estimated and budgeted too low in this current year, fiscal 20, that we may have to raise is row 2, the bottom half, which is substitutes and temporary certified. That amount for fiscal 19 was $160,000. We know that we are having teachers go on leave, that we have to hire temporary workers. With that, that cost is gonna be housed on that line, so we may look to increase it from fiscal 19. Our 5-year forecast had 130,000 for fiscal 20. We're at 160,000 in this year. Again, there are different circumstances in every year, but it's trending that, you know, probably about 30,000. I'm gonna have to, you know, shuffle some funds in the budget to make sure we don't, you know, increase our appropriations, but we can handle that, so, that's one line I'm looking at here. But again, all of our, you know, our number, we hit right on the mark, so 99% of what we thought, so.
How is it
Very good.
possible, you actually figured out the overtime by $1? There's only $1 difference in,
Well, it's a lot of shuffling the budgets and making sure we're constantly a lot has to do with, you know, knowing what goes into the figures and what each line has, and there's a lot more to the spreadsheet that, you know, we have everything broken out for all the objects, so we're constantly looking at who's in which line and how everything goes. So it's a lot of just, you know, looking at what it should be per month and then where we should be at the end of the year, so just a lot of gauging on percentages and knowing what's in those amounts too, what would be added, so. And then, you know, making sure that, you know, we're not gonna, you know, go over what was budgeted for the 100 object code and then staying below it. We flip our sheet to our next one, which is gonna be our blue, employee retirement and insurance benefits, T2I. Top right-hand corner, Same thing, our budget was $3,108,694. Our actuals came in at $3,023,539, so we hit 97% of our budget. Our biggie, that's gonna be, in our next couple fiscal years, is gonna be our health insurance. So rows 9 and rows 11 are the big ones, certified, non-certified. For certified, for row 9, our budget was $1,050,000. We came in at $1,030,000, rounding. And for row 11, for non-certified medical insurance, the budget was $504,000, and we came in at $490,000. So we have a percentage built in of 12% as our increase for health insurance. So that deals with the premiums going up, as well as hiring any new employees that would bring, their families or single status on, as well as single status here at the school district going from single to family. So all those factors kind of play into that 12% increase, which could be down the road. But, that's our most significant cost from our 200 object code. that
That's
we
been a
have.
consistent number. For whatever reason, 1 year in the last 5 years, we got a pass, part of Matt coming on board, but that, I think that, especially talking about districts, that's the number that other districts are looking at as well, so.
And I know the consortium that we're with, our health insurance consortium's always mindful about the premium increases and trying to control costs. They just recently contracted with a health insurance auditing company, BMI, to, audit, aspect that they're looking at, just to make sure that their numbers are as close to accurate as they can be when they're forecasting. So, and we're, one of the member schools that they have. There's 19 schools that are in the consortium of Suburban Health, so, we're one of the 19.
And I think I mentioned to the board last year, what Suburban did last year was any districts in the consortium that did not have spousal carve-outs, they started charging them a fee for not having the spousal carve-out. So then everybody within our consortium will have the spousal carve-out portion of the insurance. So I think that they say 5 or 6 districts within the consortium got charged a fee this year for not having it as part of the, so kind of forcing the hand a little bit.
One line where I think we could see a decrease is row 23, which is our workers' compensation. Workers' compensation, the Bureau is always sending refunds back, so I'm anticipating that, hopefully, that amount's gonna decrease going forward by a little. So we forecasted 65,000 in fiscal 20 for the 5-year forecast. I'm hoping that it'll be less than 50,000 for this year's premium. So it's one area where, we're hoping for a decrease. If there are no questions, I'll go to the next page. This will be our purchase services. Again, at the top right-hand corner, we can see our budget, $3,299,479. We came in at $3,003,576, so 91% of our budget. And if we just kind of look down, there are 5 pages, we can just kind of see the actual to the budgeted amounts, and where, we had that $3,000, I don't want to say savings, but we didn't, less than budgeted for where we were at. Line 36, 37, and 38 deal with the large $1 million contract between us and the ESC of Northeast Ohio for the 30-some employees that we hire. If we look at row 36, there's a saving, there's a difference there of about $25,000, so that makes up a portion of that $300,000 difference that we have budgeted to actual. If we flip the page and we look at 56, which is professional services or legal services, we budgeted $78,000 and we came in at $50,000, so that's almost about a $30,000 difference right there. Below that, for appraisals, that account was not used, so $10,000 was budgeted that we did not use, so that's about $40,000 right there. Below that's the architects. We did the purchase order for $25,000 when we went with GPD Group. They only had billed us, as of fiscal year 2019, $5,500, so it's about $20,000 right there as well. So that's a significant portion of the $300,000 difference that we have just on those 3 lines. And that's essentially the bulk of really where the difference would be. Small amounts here and there will make up the other amounts, but for the most part, you know, what we budgeted, kind of right at. If we flip the page over to supplies and materials, same thing there for those. We can see our budgeted amount was $512,664, and our actual came in at $391,199, so about $100,000 difference right there. You know, if we examine just the differences that we have, it's really gonna be our textbooks, where we budgeted a lot more than what we spent, starting on line 110. So right around there, we start seeing the difference between the budgeted and actuals. So that's kind of a lot of where it's at. 132, line 132, we had 8,500 budgeted for supplemental texts for 4-year-olds in kindergarten. That was not used in fiscal 19. So that 8,500, which was budgeted, was not used. Supplemental texts for middle school English, 138, we had 1,000, didn't use that. 140, middle school math, supplemental text, 1,000, didn't use that in fiscal 19. So all those together, you know, add up and get us there. 164, supplies and materials for buildings, grounds, and equipment. We had budgeted $22,777. We came in at $12,203. So that's about a $10,000 difference right there. If we flip to our next page, which is gonna be our capital outlay, T2L. Same thing, we can see our budgeted amount at the top right-hand corner, which is $121,000, and our actuals came in at $97,000. So about 81% of our budget we hit. So we still had some areas that we, you know, ended up saving on and not spending for those accounts. Some of the items that we purchased this year, irrigation system on line 2. Line 4 is the elementary school tankless hot water tank.
I'm gonna clarify, we have an irrigation system, we automated the irrigation system. So we finally brought a maintenance man on staff that had the ability to do that, so we've always had an irrigation system up front, it was never automated. Had to be manually operated, which is mind-boggling to me. And our new employee did that in about 2 days' time, ordered the stuff and completely automated the system up front, so.
We can see line 8 for the elementary school, the fob system at the recess doors. Line 10, new vacuums for the elementary school. Entrance TV below that on line 11. We go to line 24, new washer and dryer for home ec. Sharon Seitz, I remember when she came in and said that they needed funds for that because the current ones, the old ones that they had broken down. So we purchased those. So these are just some of the items that we purchased. New golf cart, line 35. It's a funny story how we ended up getting that one. I don't think we want to say that one. Line 38, the weight room neck machines that we purchased. Security bus cameras on line 39. So.
It looks like that's zero though, to me.
We didn't pay that, but we encumbered it, so we're gonna have to pay it in this year.
Okay.
Those were, was that grant money?
Yeah, I remember we
Yeah,
voted
actually-
on it.
yeah. We flip to our next page, other objects. Our budget was $238,000, and our actuals were $216,000. So about a $20,000 difference there. Our largest expense is gonna be on line 11, which are the fees that the county takes out for processing and delivering our property taxes. And that amounted to about $151,000. Our next highest would be our auditing services, which is line 9. So that's for both our audit and our GAAP that we have done. And our auditors had just started recently. Tom said hi to them too. They started about 2 weeks ago, I want to say. So. If we flip to our next page, this is going to be our transfers and advances out. This is our last sheet for the general fund. This shows all of our transfers out that we had, as well as our advance out. The reoccurring transfers out that we'll have would be for food service, yearly deficit, the athletic fund yearly deficit, and our debt payments. Just 2 every year, but we're looking to pay that off soon. I'll touch base on that later too. So once we pay off our PNC debt, then our only reoccurring transfers that we should see would be our deficits from athletics and the food service fund. And athletics is pretty much $100,000 per year, and food service is pretty much 75, but that's kind of going down, so.
Why is it going down? What's happening differently?
Well, we had to reprice menus this year. For one, in order to stay on the state subsidy list, we had to raise our prices.
Mm,
So remember, we did that as, we had that discussion in probably last October.
Right.
That
I remember
Pam came
doing
to us
that.
and said, if we want to continue to receive state subsidy, the state says we have to raise our prices. So we will do that, so we'll have some additional income on that end of it, so.
Yeah. Okay. That works.
Now, we went through our general fund. If we want to quickly go through some of the others that we have, or just leave it at the general fund?
Some of the others, what?
Some of the other
These
spreadsheets
other
that we have.
sheets.
Take a look at them, just kind of touch base, or just?
You work so hard, you might as well give us a little
Alright.
quick.
Next one we have is our,
So you can't say quick and look at them, Mrs. Etter. We're either looking at them or not looking at them, because there is no quick in between, so.
Kind of true.
I'll go kind of quick with these. We're looking at the revenue for athletics. Our estimate was 395,000. Our actuals came in at 391,000, so close to our estimate. Line 5, that's the money that we receive for the billboard. And then below, we have a definition of how many years it's gonna provide us revenue down there. So that's a quick snapshot if we're ever curious on, the billboard revenue, we can just reference back to that. We just have kind of different arrows pointing to some of the funds that come in. Rows 2 and 3, 2 was the money for the Nashville trip that we have. And then starting at row 7, and then all the way down is gonna be essentially for our sports, athletics. So our admissions, 7 through 16, our sales, lines 17 through 27, our dues and fees, lines 28 through 39, and any others that we would have. So if our budget for athletics is 130,000, athletics is only bringing in about 30,000. So that's $100,000 difference right there. We can see the amounts that are brought in. The majority for athletics would be line 9, which is boys football. 12,000 was brought in, and that's the majority. Our admissions are going to be the bulk of everything that's brought in. Sales, there's not much, and dues, not much as well. So the admissions, our tickets to our sporting events, is going to be the main driver for revenues that we see. Line 6 is going to be our playoff profits that we saw. So, we initially didn't estimate anything. It's probably a safe bet that we're going to make the playoffs, so we can probably estimate some funds in there. But just being conservative,
Yeah, probably better that way.
So we, football playoffs brought in $5,337 in January in total, so. If we, flip to. All right, so the expenses didn't print out for athletics. So our next is gonna be our revenue for permanent improvements in green. One thing to point out, well, if we look in the top corner, we can see our estimate is 846,000, and our total was 853,000. So our total came in a bit more than what we estimated for revenue. Just wanted to point out line 7, Village of Valley View Safeguard Agreement, we brought in 309,000. If we look at the definition below, and we look at the last payment column on the right-hand side, that's the last time we're gonna receive payment for that line item, and it said fiscal 19. So in fiscal 20, which we're in right now, we will not receive, funds here for the safeguard agreement, Village of Valley View. It's mixed in with the property taxes that we, goes back to that first page, but no longer will we receive the revenue sharing agreement here for that.
But property taxes will increase.
Yes.
Do we have any idea what the relationship is?
Not, no,
No,
not yet.
Okay, fair enough.
It'll be 2 years
It's okay.
before we start collecting on the Brooklyn Heights agreement, the
Yeah.
most recent, with NIDIC.
Right.
And our others last until fiscal '22, so we can see the others that we have. So we still have, we're in fiscal '20, then '21, then '22, so 3 more years of collecting those on these agreements that we have in place for here.
By the way, while I'm thinking of it, there's a tax incentive review committee meeting.
Yes.
Cog Heights has announced. You were aware of that?
Yep, and I forwarded it actually to you, Tom, so you can see it. So, yep, I think it's
Okay.
the 20th of August,
I think so.
and I think it's downtown at the headquarters
Downtown,
for-
right, 3 o'clock in the
3 o'clock.
afternoon. So I do plan to be there, so.
Carpool maybe.
Couple of years ago, they actually took the village bus down.
Oh.
So we might want to check with
All
them
right.
and see if they're going to do that again.
That's efficient.
Absolutely, I will give him a call. If we flip our page to the next page, these are gonna be expenses for the permanent improvements. Our actual came in at 650,000, our budget was just over $1 million, 1,088,000. But we planned for some items that we ended up not paying for in this fiscal 19, would be the last line, transportation, our bus purchase. We board approved it, but we didn't pay that out in fiscal 19, we'll pay it out in fiscal 20, so that 100,000, goes to 100,000 in fiscal 20.
Board approval allowed us to lock in at a price,
Mhm.
so.
So we can see, the items that we had used and along the way had, okay, flip to our next page. Food service revenue. Top right-hand corner, our estimate was 327,000, our actuals came in at 325,000.
Almost 326, really.
Mhm.
I like that the middle school and high school are drinking more milk than we budgeted for. Good stuff.
Yep, middle school, high school adult lunches came in higher than what was budgeted for.
Now, these numbers that you're showing us now, for the food service, do they include, third-party, funds, for some type of a grant or federal assistance for qualifying students? Is there anything like that in here?
Yep, that would be line 14, federal lunch program receipts.
Okay, so that's where we see the federal government helping out some of our
Free and
some of our
reduced.
disadvantaged students. Okay.
And the estimate was 70,000, we came in at $69,540, so. And again, right below that on line 15 is our transfer in for the food service, so the 75,000. If we flip our page, this is our expense sheet for food service that we have. Our budget was 338,000. Our actuals came in at 291,000. Probably the one line where I went a little bit over budget was line 2. Actual was 81,000, budget was 80,000, so that was the one that, right there. But, no, we were, managing our expenses all along. Really, lines 13, 14, 15, all the way through to 23 are gonna be the bulk of, what we're looking at. So, 14 is gonna be any type of food service equipment repairs and maintenance agreements that we have. 15,000's in the budget, we only spent 5,800. 16 through 23 would be, the food that we're purchasing for student lunches. Starting to break that out within different object codes for fruit, vegetables, dairy products other than milk, bakery products, instead of lumping everything into
Yeah.
just one line item, so trying to separate. I know it's easier for Pam to put the bulk in 560 from Gordon Food Service, instead of separating everything out, so. If we flip to our next page, it's gonna be, our 200 fund, so these are the student managed funds, revenue. The estimate was 59,000. The actual was 37,000. And when the students prepare their budgets, they prepare the, activity purpose statements, and those go to the board for approval, and we keep those in the treasurer's office, so, this would be our Spanish club, our National Honor Society, National Junior Honor Society, chess club, high school student council, and we can see all the advisors on the far left-hand side.
So the students compile their budgets, and they estimate what they're gonna bring in for revenues and expenses, and the advisor oversees, and we keep track of everything here, but we don't really manage their accounts. They're, student managed, so, but we keep an eye on it.
And just as a point of, we discourage fundraising for the sake of fundraising. We want, if they're gonna do fundraisers, we want a specific, we want goals, and those are on those sheets, so, some of the, like National Honor Society always makes donations. They're very specific about that, so the student council, so we, art clubs, had done a lot of fundraising, that actually went into a scholarship, previously, so it's, we make them have some specific goals about why you wanna do a fundraiser, so.
And, some of the aspects of the budgeting process, we found out that maybe they weren't budgeting for dues and fees for the classes. Class of 2020 on line 15, we can see the dues and fees. 0 is the estimate, and again, that's taken off the sheet, the activity purpose statement from the students. So this spreadsheet I'm gonna share with the advisors to pass along to the students, so they can see, oh, this is how the whole year panned out, this is what they had estimated, and this is what the actuals came in at. And they can also see the little descriptions above the amounts too, for their car wash or their dance ticket sales that they would have too. So this may help them, kind of see the whole year, as far as revenues go.
That's very good.
The page after is gonna be the expenses for the 200 level fund for these student managed, accounts. Their budget was 67,000, they came in at 45,000. And a lot of what they purchased, would be for, items that they sell back at, higher costs, that they're trying to generate a profit. So whether it's shirts or flowers or candles, they're purchasing those items, very cheaply and trying to sell them for a profit and scooping them up.
Is there a reason why, like, the class of 2008 is on there still? Weren't you guys trying to put those through the alumni?
The class of
Am I-
2008 had, if we look in October, a $2,010 expense, and that was party supplies for their class reunion that they had. So we budgeted $2,160, and they
Okay.
only spent $2,010 of that.
Okay,
No, it had not been transferred out, and that was something that was
before.
2 treasurers and then 1 treasurer go, and then we thought some of it was, and turns out some of it wasn't, so
Okay.
to go to the Alumni Association, for the Alumni Association to handle, so we could all go in the Cleveland Foundation, would take us out of that function, so, still something
Okay.
we need to take a look at.
I'm gonna have to talk to Rademacher, line 6, for chess club, he had no expenses, so I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Well, they weren't planning a lot anyway, so.
Yeah. Our next spreadsheet, would be, for the 19 fund, which is our other grants. You can see, this is the revenue, our estimate was 51,000, and our actuals came in at 51,000. We only had a few grants that made up this spreadsheet. One would be, our Inspiring Science Energy Grant, line 9, and that's, managed by Joy Houchin and Barb Curry, and I believe we had Barb Curry come to a board meeting and set up a couple tables. She spent, the full grant amount there. We have the CT partnership with CVCC, managed by Dr. Caleres. 30,000 was our estimate, and we came in at $29,726. High school project Lead the Way, line 11, also managed by Dr. Caleres. 10,000 came in, and that's what we budgeted for. The very last one, line 15, it's a student treasures giveaway, and that's managed by Joy Houchin and Wendy
Chahaki.
Yep. $100 was the full grant amount that they had, that came in too.
Obviously new to the district, you can't pronounce Chahaki.
Yeah.
I'm horrible with pronouncing last names.
Now, I should take a moment and point out that Bruce Chihaki had 3 children. I have 3 children. They're all the same ages. They were all in the same grades.
No,
Chahaki, Chahaki.
Chihaki and Suchaki, all the way through.
Okay, none of the board members saw your name anymore, Mr. Suchaki.
No, there was only one that had trouble with it. She's not here anymore.
page after is our expenses for the 19 fund. The budget was 60,000, and we came in at 51,000. Couple of lines that were used, line 5, Project Lead the Way, managed by Dr. Claris, came in under budget. Let's see, Martha Holden Jennings grant, managed by Joy Houchin and Matt Luganbill, came in at 1,800. Inspiring Science Energy grant, she had, that's Barb Curry again with Joy Houchin. They received the full amount, but she had only spent 4,104 of it. They've encumbered the rest, so we just haven't paid out that, but she's ordered it and we're just paying on those invoices. Below the CT Partnership, CVCC grant, Dr. Claris, again, that's the amount that we brought in, the $29,726. So we brought in what we spent out to be reimbursed. We have a robotics grant at the bottom, line 13, and line 15 is the student treasurer's giveaway, again with Joy and Wendy, and that's $100 that they did not spend in that year, so that'll roll over into fiscal 20 for them.
Some of these don't even exist anymore, like Epic hasn't run since 2010, 11.
And the last page is our grant funds for fiscal 19. Of the grant amount of 64,000 for Title I, we spent 63,700. The remaining portion gets transferred to the following fiscal year for that we didn't spend, so we don't lose funds there. Title IIA, 18,000 was the amount. 15,000 is what we spent, plus the transfer, the 2,300 for all those, advance for the 2 trips that the 2 teachers, Miles Patterson and Brad, took. And then the balance we encumbered as well. The very last one, Title IVA, 10,000, we spent that entire amount.
Nice.
That's our snapshot of the major funds that we have, as well as the general fund.
Very good.
Very good.
Quickly going through the other items that we have. We have a few new vendors, 6B, for board approval. I think we only had 2, if I pull that up.
I tried to keep
We
it
only have
awake.
one. It's Karen Hess, and that's gonna be for a professional development speaker with Dr. Claris. To go to the next one.
The battery run out? Mine
We have our donations for 6C.
did. Yep, it's dead.
We want to thank everybody on our donation list: Jory Huffman, Marty Johnston, Mark Dobbins family, Matthew Marino, Dale Andrews, and William and Dora Richardson. And then our last item is going to be 6D, approval advances against the $2,300 advance that it's paying back to the general fund, from the grant fund that we have. And that concludes the items that I have tonight for recommendation.
Okay, are there any other discussion items under treasurer's
No,
business?
I think we should thank Mr. Dobbins for appearing on the donation list. Thank you. And to everybody who was on that list.
Okay, so at this point, can we do a roll call for a motion to approve, or the treasurer's business? Roll call.
Mr. Dobbins,
Aye.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter,
Aye.
Mrs. Schukert.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Treasurer's comments.
And just had 2 items I wanted to discuss with the board. First would be, Neonet had recently had a software demonstration for the state software redesign, as well as eFinance Plus. Neonet had the option of watching on through the internet, WebEx, but also they offered to come out to one of our board meetings and do a small presentation just on the differences between the state software redesign and eFinance Plus. If that's something desired by everyone here, I can reach out with Mr. Evans to Neonet to have them work on a date to come up here for a board meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it would be nice that we'd be able to have a better feeling for why you made the decision you make when the time comes.
We haven't had Neonet here in several years, and maybe just to talk in general about some of the services they offer for us too.
And everybody should have a copy of the state software redesign.
Mhm.
These are the districts that are currently, as of 7/17/2019,
either live now or implementing. And if we look at the left-hand side and we look at Connect, that would be some, close districts to us: Brooklyn, North Ridgeville, North Royalton, and Rocky River. So we can reach out to them to see how they're.
And actually connect us to the SC, so.
So these are the interface, what are all of these?
Yeah, if we look
Groups.
here at this box at the bottom, red italicized means that they're live now, so they're using the state software redesign.
Okay,
The black means they're in process of implementing.
yeah, but that wasn't what I was
Yep.
trying to ask. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't do a very
Yeah.
good job. What is this, Noeka,
All the different
Nuwaka,
A sites.
Meta?
Oh.
What are all of those things?
We're with Neonet, they're our A site for what it's called, these are different A sites, so they're
Okay.
similar to Neonet.
Okay,
Access is a, different Neonet, connects to different Neonets, so different Neonet type entities.
okay. Oh, now I see Neonet in the middle of the second
Yep.
column. If I had seen that earlier, I probably would not have had to ask the question. Thank you.
Yep, so I will reach out with Mr. Evans to work on a date that we can have them come up to do a demonstration of both state software redesign as well as eFinance Plus. And the last item is working on our payoff with PNC for our debt. We have about $250,000 left to pay off. We're trying to get a final number from PNC, payoff number. I think PNC is having a little bit of a problem figuring out the numbers on their end, which we knew. So we're working with them to get the final payoff. We hope to be able to bring that to the next board meeting, and then board approve that payoff, and then we would proceed to payoff.
Mr. Muccio, I had a follow-up question about this
Yeah.
sheet that you passed out. What's the relationship to, say, Neonet and NOACX and MVICA and things? In other words, are they competing entities providing the same products and services? And are we limited to dealing solely with Neonet for some reason? Or could we, and I'm not suggesting that we need to or should, but I just kind of want to get a lay of the land.
Yeah,
Good question.
They do compete on some levels. They're A sites, and what they offer are, come in at different levels, and certainly, all the accounting and the EMIS and those types, there's some baseline things, but then there's, depending on the group, some secondary type things, and quite honestly, when I was at Medina, they moved from, they moved between Connect and Noeka at the time. I don't know, we were with one and went with the other one, and a lot of that had to do with, we felt that at the time, we weren't getting a lot of, our service was not good, our internet service, which was provided by them, so that was a major driving force in changing. I still get, quite honestly, Connect operates through the ESC, I think they're still down in the Valley, but they're actually in Valley View, they still send out newsletters and that to us, every now and again, just to maybe take a look at their services, but, I know that we've been with Neonet for some time. I know going back to Dr. Holland was actually on the board at Neonet. Facilitated the change down there, and our service has been good through Neonet. We could probably revisit it, but I don't know that there's any movement. I haven't seen anything from from Connect to say, there's a reason we ought to jump over.
Okay.
They're offering something that Neonet isn't offering for us at a better price.
That's fine,
And
just
I
wanted to
think
know.
that when I go to those superintendents and treasurers are at those meetings, Neonet is, from my impression, has been very, very progressive about what can we offer for the districts in the way of training. They're doing a lot of different trainings out there for our payroll people. They're bringing people on site. I know our Karen Bergen works very closely with a lot of our online resources through Neonet, so I haven't heard any complaints from her about what's available to our district and what's not available to the district, so. And really, quite honestly, with everything being fiber optic anymore, you say, well, why would we go to Neonet in Cuyahoga Falls and Connect us down here? There's no difference in price, we're not paying mileage, or there's no, we're not paying a transmission fee or anything along those lines for the difference in the distance, so.
Thank you.
But that does, along with that statement, does open up the whole state. It doesn't matter which one we go to.
Correct. Well, but also, and that happened long before it happened with ESC. So ESC wise, we could go to any ESC we
Sure, we
wanted
can
to.
do that too.
Right, so this is comparable to the the service center
Right.
layout and configuration. Everyone, the districts are free to choose and align with whomever they choose.
Right.
And, okay, I just want to make sure I understood that these
Right.
are competing entities providing largely the same services.
Right, essentially, all of our state reporting runs through, you know, and all of our EMIS reporting, all of our financial reporting, it all has to go through an A site.
Sure.
So it's, our choices are, you know, if we wanted to take the one out of Cincinnati, we could very easily work with them, but that's,
So Mr. Muccio, you had talked about the software redesign, and you made a reference to, I think, to Brooklyn being a district that is, I think, working on the software redesign. I guess I'd be curious to know whether they have a different experience being on a Connect A site relative to running that service versus to what someone who's in a NeoNet is, you know, whether they're the same experience, other than that,
Yeah, a lot has to do with,
maybe academic.
the employees at Connect and the employees at Neonet, who would help train the districts and work on the implementation.
Okay.
So it's a lot of, personnel services,
Mhm.
but the software is all the same once
Okay.
you get into the state software.
Okay.
And that concludes everything I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're sending it
This
over
also
to
says that
Mr. Evans.
all right, motion,
Districts that have changed
motion to
yet.
approve purchase orders over $5,000.
There must be 500
Under my
districts
business,
that are
staff
not on this list.
resignations. A,
That's a significant point.
motion to accept the resignation of Colleen Dankel as a teacher's assistant effective July 29, 2019. B, accept retirement of secretary. Motion to accept the retirement of Sandy Riley as superintendent secretary effective at the close of the day on December 31st, 2019, after 42 years of service with the Cuyahoga Heights Schools. 11, employment, certified staff, approve employment of long-term substitute for middle school, high school intervention specialist for 2019-20. Motion to approve employment of Renee Flowers, a long-term substitute for the middle school, high school intervention specialist for the adopted substitute teacher rate for the first 60 days and for the adopted teacher salary schedule effective the 61st day, BA Step 1. Employment of classified staff, A, motion to approve the employment of Colleen Dankel as a bus van driver on a one-year limited contract for 2019-20 per the adopted hourly driver rate. Step 4, $23.86 per hour assigned, contingent upon successful completion of FBI, BCI, fingerprint, and proper certification. B, approve employment of a teacher assistant for 19-20. Motion to approve the employment of Patricia Conte on a one-year limited contract as a teacher assistant for 19-20 school year per the adopted salary schedule. Step 4, $26,719 contingent upon successful completion of FBI, BCI fingerprint check, and proper certification. Employment supplemental positions. A, approve employment supplemental contracts for 19-20. Motion to approve the listed individuals on supplemental contracts and the stipulated positions for 2019-20 per the adopted wage schedule contingent upon successful completion of BCI, FBI fingerprint checks, and proper certification if applicable. Assistant boys soccer coach Vincent Faraji at 2/3 of a contract, and Stephen Sokolich at 1/3 of a contract. B, approve employment of ESY transportation coordinator for summer of 2018 and summer of 2019. Motion to approve employment of Kathy Topovich as the extended school year transportation coordinator for summer 2018 and summer 2019 per the adopted driver hourly rate on an as-needed basis to coordinate summer ESY activities. 14, employment substitutes and volunteers. A, motion to approve the employment substitute as-needed staff for 19-20 per the attached list. B, approve substitute teacher list for 2019. Motion to approve the substitute teacher list for 2019-20 as attached. 19, agreements, contracts, and membership. A, motion to approve the bus van routes for 2019-20 school year per the attached bus route schedule. B, approve an agreement with the Summit Educational Service Center for professional development. Motion to approve an agreement with Summit Educational Service Center Governing Board for the professional development services for 2019-20 at a cost not to exceed $8,200 to be paid with Title II grant funds per the attached documents. C, motion to approve the agreement for 2019-20 with Timothy O'Keefe to research students as listed on the SF-14 and SF-14H to ensure the educational services that each student is receiving is being billed to the appropriate school district. And that's the motion to, 16, motion to approve my consent agenda.
Okay, so can I have a motion for, a motion to approve the superintendent's business consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Etter,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Suchaki. Discussion.
Purchase orders over $5,000, you see Coliseum Construction for the weight room expansion, Denise Morgan for professional development, that's 4 days throughout the school year. Frontline Technologies, that's our absence reporting and substitute management tracking system. Tyranny Brothers, those are the 4 Clever Touch TVs, the interactive TVs, 3 in the elementary, I think one's going to high school. Reading Plus subscription, we're in our 3rd year with Reading Plus as one of our reading software. Creative Literacy Consulting, that's for professional development through the course of the year. PSI Affiliates, that's for our nursing services, our nursing contract for 2019-20, which are at the same levels as we were for 18-19. That covers our nurse and our nurses' aides for the school year. Working our way down. Resignation of teacher assistant Colleen Dankel has resigned her teacher's aides position. There's some medical things and she can't perform that function anymore, but although she still can help us in the bus garage, so she's asked to move back into the bus garage. That's why you see several motions with Colleen's name on them there. Colleen's been a very loyal and valuable employee through the years, so we're gonna use Colleen wherever we can use her. Motion to accept the retirement of Sandy Riley. Sandy, after 42 years, has met with SCRS and will retire December 31st, and we'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward, but I think Sandy has finally got herself to a good place with that.
Good.
So after many talks with many, many people, and I think our old employee, Betty Beach, ultimately told Sandy that she's losing money by working. And Sandy didn't believe it when other people told her that, and for whatever reason, when Betty told her,
When Betty told her, she believed her.
so. Approve the employment of long-term substitute. Renee Flowers are gonna be our long-term intervention specialist. We're gonna do a little jostling. We had a late resignation, July 10th, from our resource room in the middle school, high school. We're gonna move Dr. Freed into that for the first semester. We've also gonna have a student teacher from Baldwin Wallace in that resource room. And at the end of the semester, then we'll look to hire someone full-time for that position. But we didn't wanna rush through in such a critical place and do a hire without properly posting it and making sure that we had some people. And quite honestly, I know this student teacher, and this may prove to be someone that can help us in that resource room. Improvement of bus van driver, again, that's Colleen Danko. We certainly would welcome Colleen into, with open arms to back to the transportation department, teacher's assistant, and then Patty Conte to fill Colleen's teacher's aides assistant in the elementary building that she vacated. Supplemental contracts, Matt Natal is bringing on 2 assistants. Vince was his assistant coach when he was down in West Virginia, and does some club coaching up here, so has a real good connection for Matt. And then Steven Sokolich is an alum that Matt played with when he was here as a varsity soccer player, so happy to bring on a couple of alums that really want to build a strong program and get something going in the soccer area. So I think talked to Matt, very excited about the turnout of young athletes with the soccer program, so feels we've really got something to
I just
build
want
on
to
there.
add too, the kids love him.
Do they?
Because Joe and I both have kids on the team,
Okay.
and they're really enjoying the coaches,
Good.
so, good stuff.
Approval of employment of the SOI Transportation, Kathy Topovich, you see that's 18 and 19. For whatever reason, as an oversight, we did not approve Kathy, although she did the work all last summer, and we didn't pay her for the work.
Oh,
And then for this past summer, as our extended school year transportation coordinator, and, we talk a lot about those band schedules for the summer, and that was an oversight. We just had a discussion prior to about how that kind of could have slipped through the cracks, so we're gonna meet again and make sure we don't do that. Kathy does a great job with that for us, so. And substitutes on an as-needed basis, you see that list, and that's some ticket takers and some different positions in the building where we may need subs throughout the course of the year. And then our sub list through the ESC, those are people that just list, that list is just people that list specifically Cuyahoga Heights that they want to sub at. We break that document's probably about 6 pages long, and we just pull out the ones that request to work here at Heights. So the bus route schedule for 1920. We may be blowing this up in a week, but.
We will, Mr. Evans.
Yeah,
We will be
based on,
blowing
We will.
based on what's going on with the roads, I know Dr. Claris and Kathy just sat through some meetings with the cities about some of the road work that's currently taking place, and I think so far, knock on wood, with the activities, band camp and the sports things, people have managed it okay. Obviously, when buses start rolling, it may cause a little bit of, from what Kathy tells me, a little bit of a tweak when we have to get buses back here to run for athletic events after school, like those middle school stuff. So that we may have to inform the league that, be patient with us, we're gonna get there, but our buses are gonna get back a little bit later based on the routes they're gonna have to take, so we'll work through that. Heck, Richmond Heights has never been on time in all the years I've been here, so I'm not too worried about being with the middle school stuff. We'll make it work. They'll wait, they won't start without us. Summit Educational Service Center Professional Development for the course of the year. Dr. Clark's using some Title II grant funds. Some really great data from testing data that a very well-respected former employee of ours developed himself and used us as kind of the plug-in, and really allows us to drill down and go even question by question on some of the state testing, and we're gonna work through the department chairs and with the departments on looking at that data and maybe isolating some areas for improvement on our state testing, so very excited about that.
Okay. I was wondering why we're using Summit, that explains.
Well,
That's
that's
where-
employee specific.
Yeah, I see that now.
And the agreement with Tim O'Keefe, we just, for those of you that got here a little bit late, though, we got a real nice card from Joe Brigant's wife, but Tim O'Keefe was Joe Brigant's contact, and had never stepped foot before, and Tim has, in the course of his working through the school district, has probably well over $1 million into our school district that we otherwise would not have received if it weren't for somebody digging in and saying, hey, you owe Cuyahoga Heights money because you're, so, Tim, and just as nice a person as you ever did want to meet too, so, so we look forward to Tim doing well for us again,
Mhm.
so. That's what I have. Questions?
Any other discussion under superintendent's?
None from me.
business? Okay, so we can have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Etter,
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki,
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins,
Aye.
Mrs. Schuker.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Mr. Evans, comment.
A few things for me. You got a copy of my calendar. That's the first week of school. I was gonna write all this down. I thought, no, I'm just gonna print my calendar out for you so you can see it. And certainly, I think we're back to a place where I think the staff would love to see any and all of you, that if you can show up for any of our opening week activities. There was a time when maybe that wasn't the case, but we certainly, Mrs. Schukert has informed me that she's gonna be able to make our opening day, so she'll kick off our.
That's the 16th though, right?
Yeah, our
Oh,
opening on
geez.
the Friday before,
Oh,
and then,
that's the other calendar.
yeah.
What other calendar?
No,
The
that's,
one we don't have.
Oh, okay.
that's in one of the handouts I gave you.
Okay, I didn't open that
I have
yet.
the handouts with the PD on it, and also the new teachers are coming in this Friday, and
Yeah, I saw that.
we'll talk to them early, and then they'll get the world famous tour of the district by myself.
Yeah.
As I look at the list of some of the people on it, they could probably be doing the tour for us, some of the new employees, but that's always fun for me.
How many new employees are there? Teachers.
What, 10?
10?
Yeah,
10?
between
Wow.
aides and.
That's a
So the
lot.
first day of school is the 16th?
The first day of school with, the
Staff.
first day of high school is the 20th,
Uh-huh.
and then the first day, high school, middle school, and then K to 5, the 21st, and then pre-K does a phase-in over the 21st and 22nd. And then 23rd is the first day that everybody will be on site. We had talked with Mrs. Houchin, a lot of districts do what they call a rolling start in the elementary, and that's to get parents in and maybe ease those kids in a little bit. I asked Joy if she wanted to give that a shot this year. She said, yeah, she's worked very, very hard on coming up with a schedule to make all that neat and then to get the parents in here, so we're excited about a rolling start. And we'll get a little feedback from the parents too, because it's a little bit new to us at Heights. Usually, when we open the doors, we bring them all in and let's get after it, so, so we're gonna phase them in a little bit here when we get up and running. And I know all is right with the world. Band camp started this week. I heard Coach Blom out there with the with our undefeated drum line, getting them cranked up, the day before the band came in, so, all's right with the world, and we're ready to get things started. Lots of whistles blowing, and, lots of activity in the building, and I just wanna, get a plug in that, our maintenance and custodial staff and the summer help that we brought on, I wanna thank the board once again for allowing me to bring on a few extra kids. In my time here, I don't know if the building's ever looked as good as it's looked. And we've got as much work done, and even to the standpoint, I know Dave brought on a couple, tech kids this summer, and they just we've been able to get so many things done that, were put on hold for many, many years. Mr. Dobbins and I talked about it. We hadn't had a paint crew since, I think, your son graduated back, way back when we've had the paint crew going back the last 2 years now. We've got probably about 70% of the district painted over the last 2 summers inside, and just a lot of really positive things going on. Looking forward to a great start to the school year. And it's exciting with GPD in the building too, and start to talk about what some of the possibilities are, and still kind of doing what we can do, knowing that there's gonna be a long-range plan for us at some point, so.
Yeah, I see you have a meeting scheduled with them on Monday, the 19th. What's,
We're gonna we meet with them weekly, just to updates. Where we're at right now is they gave us, I put in the Friday update, they've put together 5, kind of starting to sketch out some numbers. And I told you how they come up with, use the OFC numbers. They're gonna start to refine it. They're also gonna work into a spreadsheet where we're gonna have prioritized things, wants, needs, and we're also gonna have some ranking within that, within those categories, and to look at some cost things, so as we can start to get into some hard costs. Once we have that spreadsheet done, we're gonna present to the board and show you what they've come up with for preliminary numbers. Continue to work through the BEST committee. I think I said in my Friday update, I'm not gonna create a separate capital improvement committee. That, I'm gonna shoot a town talks out the end of this week, that if people are interested, we've always had that arm as part of our BEST committee, that if people want to be involved in that, come on down to the BEST committee. Our meetings are gonna be regular, we're gonna have regular updates, GPD's gonna work through them. Jim's Whistler has been involved in some of the meetings, so Jim can facilitate that back and forth between GPD and those committee members. So I'm very excited about where we're going, and GPD is, they are just getting after it. I was shocked for them to be able to come in with numbers, and there's a method to their madness. They've got a lot of people working on it, so it's really, really exciting. Where we're headed, still trying to work on it. Mark is also very excited about us going down, so Jason was gonna be out all this week, so when Jason gets back, I'm gonna say, hey, can we get a night, our board would really like to come, and Mark was excited about us going downtown, and just meeting some of the faces. Like I said, the day after we signed that contract with him, he had 6 engineers in his building. They were all over the place, and they're all very young. I think there was one of them that was over 30 years old. Of course, to me anymore, everybody was young.
okay.
So they've been very, I'm probably getting an email from Jason about every other day, just checking on some things. They've digitized all of our district, all of our plans, which is pretty voluminous with the number of additions to the building, and Neil was shocked. He came and picked up a truckload of plans and had them back here like in 2 days, where they had scanned them in and digitized them. Now we have those for ourselves to use as well, so really excited about what's going on, so.
You talked about maybe putting a blurb out there in Tom Talks. Is there any other way that we might be able to get a push out to our district, everyone in our district?
Well,
maybe one of those calls, like one of those robocalls?
When we're ready, I'll probably do a flyer, a card flyer,
Okay.
to say that, in news and views, I told you that we brought on GPD as an architect.
Yeah.
You heard in Tom Talks that we're now at a point where GPD is now coming back with when they're ready to come back with some recommendations, with some dollar figures. If you're interested, they're gonna present them at the BEST meeting on such and such a date. And then, so everybody kind of gets that. I'm certain that we're gonna do another kind of a survey type meeting at some point in time. What that looks like and how that refines, and again, that's gonna deal with the wants and needs. We know what our needs are, we know what those are pretty well defined, and Jim did a great job. Jim was at the meeting, and Jim distributed all that information that we gathered through the surveys and through the night that we had down in the cafeteria, and put that in GPD's hands. And of course, they were there that night, they observed it, but Jim gave them everything all charted out. So I think that just puts us way ahead of the game.
I know this might sound silly too, but if we know well enough in advance, we might be able to get like a paragraph in the village newsletters, like
Okay.
each one, you know,
Well,
before
and
they
we
go out.
we
'cause that
definitely
would
will,
be good.
we'll definitely make sure we give enough lead time so that I can get it in the newsletters in the villages, because we're not gonna, we're definitely gonna make sure that this is something that's well publicized, and say, here's where we're at with this right now, because there's a lot of people that came to that meeting that had specific interests. You know, we heard talk about the stadium that I hadn't even heard before. There were, a lot of those things were very, very new, when some of the topics, and they were very valid that we talked about with the stadium. There was a group of people that are very serious about a field house, and they kinda came out and talked about field house. We heard a lot of safety things that I hadn't necessarily heard before, so we wanna see where all that falls in the dollars and cents of this as we start working through it.
I mean, the last thing you want is for people, anyone in the district to say, oh, we didn't know that Cuyahoga Heights Schools was thinking about these improvements.
Which is why that everybody in the district got the mailing on the survey back then, and we're gonna continue, when we do informational mailings out, it will go to every household in the district, not just, it will go to every resident in the district, it will not just go to the families of students.
Right.
And we were very specific about that when we did the survey, that every household got that card to say, we want your input,
Right.
go online, and we're gonna, it'll be the same type of thing. Well, I'm also, and I say Matt and I have that same approach, that we're gonna put ourselves in a position where nobody can say to us, we didn't know.
Right.
You know, short of renting a Blues Brothers mobile with the speaker on top and driving through the streets of the village, announcing the meeting, that we'll do everything up to that point, so. Some other dates that we've got coming up, this Friday, or, I'm sorry, the 16th, middle school, high school, new student orientation. That's gonna go from 5 to 8 in the evening. We're gonna have parents and the students in, and then break them out a little bit. And September 6th is the Athletic Hall of Fame. The luncheon's at 12:30 at Harry's Steakhouse, and the football game's that night against John Marshall. And just up one other comment, you see the donations for the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, since I came on board in 2000, the first year was 2011, it was the first year that it was kind of handed over to me. It's self-sustaining. We have not spent a penny of district funds for anything associated with the Hall of Fame. The luncheon, the shirts, the awards, all that has come from the Hall of Fame account, and we've accepted donations into that account, and that's, and then we pay for the lunches, and so that for the 10 years that we've been doing that, it's a self-sustaining activity for the district. We had a really good turnout the first couple of years, and I think we may look at maybe doing another push for some donations, but recognize those people that have donated to the Athletic Hall of Fame. So, thank you.
All right, moving on to board business resolutions. Let me just see, I just wanna see, okay. So a motion to approve attendance of the following individuals at the OSBA Capital Conference to be held on November 10th through 12th, 2019 in Columbus, per attached documents. The board members would include all 5 board members and administrators, Mr. Evans and Mr. Muccio. A motion to approve appointment of the following delegates for the annual OSBA business meeting, OSBA Delegate Assembly to be held on November 11th, 2019 in Columbus, per attached document. Anybody interested? I did it last year. I thought
Yeah.
it was very interesting.
And I've done it previously as well.
You go to a big meeting, and I know you expressed interest last
I
year.
think I was the alternate last year. I don't mind doing it, but I do note, as anybody who's done it before knows, that it takes you away from other
Yeah.
programs. So
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
mind being the delegate, but it's two-sided coin.
It's
Yes, it
usually
is.
2 sessions that it takes you away from, because
Yeah.
it's like, kind of like in the middle.
Well, we don't have Mr. Name here, we don't necessarily, we don't necessarily have to name the delegates this evening, I don't think. Are we timed with the
You wanna
deadline
table
on?
it?
Well, I think OSBA wants to know when we register.
Oh,
I'm pretty
okay.
sure.
Oh, that's right.
But
they do.
I'm
They
fine,
do.
whatever you guys want to do. I'm willing to do it, but I do note that there is a trade-off in doing that, and that's fine.
Interested, actually.
What's that?
He may
That's
have
why,
interest.
that's why I said Joe
Oh,
might be
if he's
interested.
Joe's interested.
He-
We, you know,
even as
we
an
could do the
alternate.
time honored tradition of, if you're not there, you got voted in.
That's right.
Yeah, we could do that. Then if necessary, we can put another one on the agenda and change it if he says no.
Did you hear that, Joe?
Why don't we table that one then? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can we table that item for the next? I'm gonna just note
September
that.
10th, this is, they want the delegates by, so we're.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we got
For
time.
OSB.
Good.
Okay, so I'm noting that too. So we're gonna skip that one. C, a motion to approve the attendance of the following individuals at the Alliance of High Quality Education's annual meeting to be held on November 11th, 2019 in Columbus, per attached document. Superintendent Mr. Evans, Treasurer Mr. Muccio, and the board members Mr. Dobbins, Ms. Sutter, Mr. Naaman, Mrs. Schukert, and Mr. Suchaki. A motion to approve the superintendent's request for membership with the Greater Cleveland School Superintendents Association for the 19-20 school year at a cost of $100. A motion to approve the attached list of requests to attend professional conferences. And we have Mr. Evans going to the BASA Association, Superintendent's Association Annual Fall Conference in Columbus, October 1st and 2nd. Back, and a motion to approve the renewal of the Cuyahoga Heights Schools annual membership with the Cuyahoga Valley Chamber of Commerce at a cost of $325 effective June 1st, 2019 per attachment. So I will make the motion to approve the board's business consent agenda. Can I have a second?
Sure, why not?
Seconded by Mr. Suchaki. A roll call, please, on that.
Mrs. Schukert,
Aye.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter,
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Any discussion? Or no, there's not discussion, I'm sorry. Okay, now we're moving on to board discussion. Who would like to go first? I'm gonna skip, because we don't have any board discussion topics, do we?
Well, I had one item.
Okay, go ahead.
One minor item, and this follows the conversation Mr. Evans and I had. I think there'd been some conversation about next July and maybe having a meeting in July, because I talked to you about time away, and I don't know, we want to talk about that tonight, or we can talk about
Well,
another
we
meeting.
can, and I'll just bring it up, and just as a discussion point, we can maybe work, I know it's nice to have the month of July off, for all of us. It just seems that invariably, there's something that has to take place. And while the board has been fantastic, we had a couple purchase orders that I called the board president, vice president on, to move forward on, because it had to be done during July. And we approved them this evening, as a group, but I just think that sometimes we're better served if I have everybody here and everybody hears at the same time. I don't want there to be any, I don't know, there's just a little chunk of work that always seems to get caught in between. It's not quite ready at that last June meeting, and I know we push that June meeting back all the time, so I can close books out and a lot of other things, but there always seems to be something in between that couldn't or shouldn't wait till the first week of August. So I'm just throwing that out there, that's for some discussion, that's time. You know, that's for you folks to decide. We made it work this year. Mr. Dobbins and Mrs. Schukert were both easy to get a hold of. I had a good discussion with them, and I think I put in the Friday update that you know, we're gonna move ahead with a couple of those requisitions, and it just, you know, we got that window to get things done during the summer when it comes to construction things and that type of thing during the summer, and I don't want there to be the thought that, you know, I took a shortcut on something, or we're rushing something through without giving us due diligence, so.
I don't see what one meeting, you know, if we're talking one meeting in July would harm,
Yeah.
you know. And then you could always, the opposite too, if there isn't anything, we could always cancel
We
it,
could say,
so.
we have a meeting, if you have a meeting scheduled, we can say we're gonna cancel the meeting, you know, that's easy enough to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you'd also made a reference to strategically that when you're trying to line up resources for the coming school year, that I think you said that there's a value of having ability to make an early offer, or, I don't know if I'm saying it right.
And this was the ESC employee, but every now and again, an employee, for whatever reason, waits that July 10th deadline to tell you they're not coming back. And sometimes there's a very viable candidate out there quickly, and I almost hate to say, we wanna hire you, but you have to wait till August 7th to get approved by our Board of Education, and this, if it's somebody looking for a job or somebody on the market, especially, you know, especially a lot of the young kids coming out of college, there's some rock stars coming out right now, and it's saying, well, so-and-so can get me approved this month, and they're offering me a job, do I wait to, you know, as much as you tell them, it's 99.9% sure gonna happen, they haven't been approved by Board of Education, they don't have a job yet, and sometimes they're just kinda hanging around, so it's, that domino effect, personnel-wise, happens every summer in districts. Sometimes it happens to us, sometimes it doesn't. We saw a little bit, even with the teacher's aide position, where somebody moves, and then now it turns into a little bit of a domino effect because people start moving around within the district a little bit, and you wanna be able to, at least from our standpoint, we wanna be able to tie in and know that we've got our people in place and ready to go. And in a perfect world, everybody's let us know in the spring of the year, and we can get all of our hirings done, and all, but that's not, when Mr. Marrero retired, Carl waited till like July 10th.
Yeah. So you really couldn't do it very early in July, you'd have to wait until at least 15th, 17th, something like that.
But having one meeting seems like it would make everything more efficient anyway.
You almost do the third week of,
Yeah, I mean.
and what it may end up doing is taking 2 meetings off the docket for August, and you may only need one in August then, if we got some things done there we didn't. So it's something we could take, I just threw it out there for discussion.
Calendar really, I mean, we approved the calendar in January, so we are a little ahead of time on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's something that Mr. Evans and I were talking about it, both in the current situation, but also looking forward, and we almost need to talk about it now so that when January comes, we don't forget about it, but also
Yeah.
that we build it into the calendar, because it's not something we've been doing.
And I think if we are looking at a building project, I also think from that standpoint, I think they're just gonna be monthly things that we need to address, even if it's from the informational standpoint. I would hate that the board go from the end of June to the beginning of August without having an update from the construction manager or whomever about, here's what we had to do, here's what we did, we had to make this change, kind of thing, so.
Well, you also had been, I think you've been trying to target a lot of the workflow to be done during the off-season, during June, July, August, so one would think that there'd be a whole lot
Right,
of
and
activity here.
and that's,
It would behoove us to be here.
yeah,
Yeah.
they know that's what we're shooting for in a perfect world.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the way the Career Center's doing it too, they're doing all of their work from the time that it ended until the school year starts, and they're gonna make it, but.
Well, you see,
That's
Willoughby Eastlake didn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
They got caught with the steel embargo, and then
Right.
but I was curious as to why they, like when Medina did theirs, Medina, literally, closed down, and Elyria did this too, they got done like the second week of May, the year, and like when Medina did it, the kids were like walking out the doors, and the skid steers were coming in the doors to knock walls down that same day. It's like they didn't wait 24 hours. It's like I hope your locker's cleaned out because it's gone. And then they started, and when Medina went back, they started like the week after Labor Day. So they knew they built in, still working a lot of time, and they did a major renovation down at Medina. If anybody had ever been down there before, that was. And then they also worked around through the school year, the things that they could, but they knew what that window was. They knew what they could get done during the summer, because they knew where kids had to be back in the building and how much percentage of the building had to be open for classes. So there's an art to that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to get that on
Yeah.
everybody's radar while we were still thinking of it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
And the only comment I had is the one I already mentioned during the treasurer's report with the TIRC meeting coming up.
Okay. Are these your board reports too? Is that what you're tying in?
No, I'm just,
Okay.
it's the only
Okay,
thing
just
that I
discussion.
wanted to bring up,
Okay.
the only thing I
Okay,
was
so
gonna bring up
I'm
during
moving to
discussion.
board like committee reports or comments. Mrs. Utter, anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you to Mr. Muccio. I appreciate your explanation and, clarity in all of the, financial sheets. And I appreciate the fact that we ended the, fiscal year, 2019 year, $1.5 million in a surplus. I also appreciate the fact that, not only do we make money, but, our expenses came under budget. So that's good for everyone to know that. I think that's great. I just wanted to just say thank you for all your hard work and your explanations. And thank you again to Kathy Martin and Mr. Birch in finding the reimbursement money that we got. That's unexpected, and that's a nice chunk of change that we were able to bring back to the district. And with that said, I just want to say, while it's summertime, it's not really summertime and vacation around here. I know a lot of people work through the summer to get everything ready for the new school year. We're about to embark on another school year, so good luck to everybody, and thanks to all who did work hard. And hopefully enjoy a few days of summer vacation before the start of the school year, which is just around the corner.
Mr. Suchaki?
I don't have anything, no report this
Okay.
evening.
Mr. Dobbins?
I have nothing else.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to Sandy, 42 years.
Yes.
I don't want to give my age, but she's been here as long as I've been alive. So that's pretty impressive. I
In
can.
the year after I graduated.
There you go. And just to the kids and, you know, to the families, even though we don't have anyone here, enjoy the last couple days. But I will say, being here the other day for sports pictures with my kids, I swear I looked around at one point and I think at least half of the high school was here. So it's great seeing the kids that are involved, from all the different sports to the band, you know, just all the different things that these kids, it was buzzing. And you think summer, you think break, these kids are really not breaking very long. So it was great to see everyone in their uniform, and the new field or the turf. It was a good thing.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned the way you talked about Sandy in the 42 years. That was, her first year here was the first year I got involved in a school committee.
There you go. It's a significant year.
Yep.
All right, so agenda information should be noted that the Board of Education members received their agenda several days prior to the actual meeting. Thus, they have had considerable opportunity to study it, ask questions, etc. Future agenda items, board members, any suggestions? I have the delegate for OSBA, we could talk about that.
Yeah, we
Anything
probably
else?
should,
Did we do
when we get
the,
closer.
isn't there the fall, conference? Not,
Like the,
not the one in November, but the one that is with school board, OSBA, but the fall, the regional one? Isn't
you
that
mean like the one
coming
that Reno does?
Oh,
That
yeah.
goes-
up? Isn't that
You-
coming up
Northeast
in
Region.
That's
October?
actually, that's like October 2nd, because I think I came, and it's the same this year, because I know I'll be coming back from BASA. I came back from BASA to that meeting, and I just happened to look, and I saw the regional meeting is it's the same day that I would be coming home from, I think it's October 2nd.
Do
Yeah,
we
I was
wait though to
wondering
see if
about it.
anyone's recognized? We don't
Yes,
just go
yeah,
to it,
we didn't
wait
go
to
2
see
years
if
ago because
we're-
we didn't have anybody there being
Right.
recognized, so it's a matter of,
And that should be coming
And
probably
that's
soon.
kind
that's
of-
at Wadsworth, they do that at the,
Yeah.
Galaxy.
Galaxy, yeah.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
curious about that, because we talked about November, and I thought, I know there's one that was before November, and we didn't really talk about it.
I'll ask Reno.
Okay,
And I don't know if this is the right place, but will GPD be talking to us before or after the BEST committee?
When they talk, they're gonna talk to best, but all the best committee's gonna get is that timeline that you guys have already been presented with.
Okay,
So there,
okay.
you
I
guys will
didn't
hear,
know,
you guys are gonna hear numbers before anybody else does.
okay, I didn't, like, I'm not on the BEST committee,
Right.
but if this is like a
No.
hot place.
I was very, and I talked to Jim about this, I said, and GPD, I said, what they're gonna get from, is that time frame and what that time frame kind of means and where we're
Okay.
working at. But that, and so essentially, that's the same presentation that was given to the board,
Okay.
in June, so.
Sorry, I probably
No,
should
no,
have brought
good
that up at a
question.
different time.
is
Okay,
it the best finance committee that?
No, the
No, they're
best,
separate.
the best overall committee, the
Okay.
best committee.
the best overall.
The overall best.
You were
committee.
right. You're right.
It's really
It
best.
is a pretty good committee,
And-
yeah.
Matt, can I ask you for, and I'll touch base with Joe, but finance committee, we probably, what, you think like September?
Sure.
beginning? Okay, I'll talk to Joe about getting something. I just know the time gets away with us gets away from us. So we will meet for that. Okay. Upcoming regular meetings are scheduled right here on Wednesdays at 7 PM, August 24th, or 21st, August 21st, September 4th, September 18th, October 9th, October 23rd, November 6th, November 20th, and December 11th.
Through the rest of the calendar year.
I know, it's insane that we're talking 2020.
Check and make
Okay,
sure.
at this point, I would hereby move that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session pursuant to ORC Section 121.22G1 for the purpose of considering the employment and/or compensation of an employee of the school district. I made the motion, can I have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Dobbins. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Schukert,
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. It is 8:51, and we are in executive session with no action taken after. Hold on. It is 9:04. I'd like to make a motion to reconvene open session. Can I have a second?
You don't really need a motion, you just reconvene.
It just says
Reconvene and
motion.
take attendance.
In a roll call.
Okay, well, I don't need a motion, so we're back. It's 9:04 out of, it's actually 9:05 now, but say 9:04. We're out of executive session. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Etter.
Here.
Mr. Souchaki.
Here.
Mr. Dobbins.
Here.
Mrs. Schuster.
Here, 4 present, 1 absent. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Etter
Okay.
gets it.
That already.
We're all
Second by
seconding
Mr.
it.
Dobbins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 9:05.